sure before we begin that you download the tab and score from the songbook section of the website. I usually play Cockles and Mussels with a capo on fret 2, as if I do decide to sing along as I'm playing, the pitch best suits my voice. But you don't need to use a capo if you don't have one or you don't want to. I've arranged Cockles and Mussels in the key of C. So the chords we're going to play the melody around are C major and G7. If you look at the tab and the score for Cockles and Mussels, which is downloadable from the songbook section of the website, you'll see that at the top of the score and at the top of the tab, the notes that you play are in red. These in fact represent the melody notes. So if you just played those, you actually would have a solo arrangement, but it wouldn't be very interesting. It would sound like this. So in addition to that then, I add in what I call the bass notes. These are represented in black and are at the bottom of the score and also at the bottom of the tab. When you're playing the bass note, you always use your thumb, and it is basically the bass note for whatever chord you're in. So when you're in the playing C major, you're going to be plucking the 5th string with your thumb, which would be the bass note C. You could actually play the whole arrangement just playing the melody notes and the bass notes, but it wouldn't be terribly interesting. But it is an arrangement, so that would sound like this for the first section. So it's not terribly interesting. So in addition to that, I add in what I call the ornamental notes. They're notes which appear in the middle of the score and in the middle of the tab, and they are in green. So they make the whole arrangement more interesting. So if you put together all of those notes in the first phrase in Dublin's Fair City, you get this. For the purposes of learning this tune, I'm going to break it up into several phrases. The first phrase is in Dublin's Fair City. So putting that together, I'll just play it and then we'll go through how you actually play it in detail. So to play that, you open up by playing the melody note G, which is on the 3rd string. So you pluck that with your first finger. Then you do a pinch using the 2nd finger of the right hand and the thumb, and you're pinching the note C and the bass C. Then you pluck the 3rd string again, open, the note G. Then you again pinch the C note and the bass C. So that's the 2nd string and the 5th string. You then pluck the 3rd string, open, so it's the note G. Then you pinch again the melody note C and the bass C. And then you pluck the open G note on the 3rd string. Then you pinch again the C's. And you pluck the open G, and then you move with the to the 3rd finger, or you pluck with the 3rd finger of the right hand the 1st string, the open 1st string, so it's the note E. And again you pluck at the same time, you do a pinch with the C bass note. So putting that together again, playing it out, you have. And that's the end of phrase 1. The second phrase, where the girls are so pretty, will end up sounding like this. And to play that, you take up on the C chord, where you just left off from phrase 1, and you pluck with the 2nd finger of the right hand the 2nd string, and that is the note C. and you at the same time you pinch the bass note C on the 5th string, so you get that. Then you do another pinch, and this time you pinch the C note with the 2nd finger of the right hand, and the thumb on the 4th string, that's the E note because you're on a C chord, and then you get that. Then you move from the C chord to the G7 chord, and you play the melody note, which is now D, which is got on the 2nd string, and you again pluck that with your 2nd finger of the right hand, and you pinch at the same time the 6th string, which is the G note because you're on a G chord. And then you do a very quick couple of ornamentation notes, which is got by plucking the 4th string, the D note, with the thumb, and then pluck the 3rd string, which is the G note, with the 1st finger. You then repeat that several times, and then you repeat it again, and once more, and then for pretty you pluck the 6th string, the G note, and this time you pluck the 1st string, and that's the F note because you're on a G7 chord. So you're pinching the 6th string and the 1st string, and that's the end of that phrase. So just playing that all together. The next phrase, I first set my eyes on Sweet Molly Malone, will sound like this. And that takes up on the G7 chord where you left off the previous phrase, and it starts off by doing a pinch between the 2nd string and the 6th string, and it's the D note on the melody and the G note on the bass. So you do that. Then you move on to the C major chord, and again you do a pinch, and this time you do a pinch on the open 1st string, which is the E note, the open 3rd string, which is the G note, and again the bass, but this time the bass is on the 5th string because you want the bass note C because you're on the chord C. So you do that. You then put your 4th finger of your left hand down onto the 2nd string 3rd fret to get the note D, and you do a pinch between that melody note and the bass C. You then do an ornamentation note, which is just with the 1st finger of the right hand plucking the G note on the 3rd string, and then you lift your 4th finger of the excuse me, the left hand up, and you pluck the C note on the 2nd string as well as doing your bass note C. So again you get your pinch, and then you do a pluck with the 1st finger of the right hand on the G note. Then you place your 4th finger of your left hand down on the 1st string 3rd fret to get the note G, and again you pinch with the bass note. You now do 2 ornamentation notes quite quickly because you're going to fit 2 in where you only put 1 in before. So what you're going to do is you're going to pluck the 2nd string with your 3rd finger or your 2nd finger of the left hand, and that's the note C, and then you're going to pluck the note G with the 1st finger of the right hand, and then you're going to play the melody note on the 1st string 1st fret and the bass note C together, a pinch. In order to get that F note on the melody on the 1st string, you move your 1st finger of your left hand off string 2 and place it on string 1, 1st fret, and then you do your pinch, and again you do your ornamentation notes on the 2nd string and the third string. And now you lift your first finger of your left hand off the first string and you place it on the second string, first fret, as you normally would for the C chord, and you pluck the open first string with the bass note C. So you do a pinch, and then you do that pinch again. Then you place your fourth finger of your left hand on the second string, third fret, to get the note D, and you do a pinch again with the bass note. And then you lift your fourth finger up to go into the standard C major chord position, and you pluck the second string, the C note, with the bass C note, and that's a pinch. And then you go onto the G7 chord, move on to the G7 chord, but you place your fourth finger of your left hand on the second string, third fret, to get the note D, because that's the melody note now. And then just to complete, it's nice to finish out the phrase with just a few continuity notes, so as that there's no silence before the next phrase begins, because the word, the end of the phrase where you have Molly Malone, the lone is given a full bar, and if you just finished with that pluck, that pinch, there'd be a silence. So what I do is I do a few continuity notes. So I just pluck the fourth string, which is the D string, with the thumb, and then pluck the third string with the first finger of the right hand, and then again pluck the melody note with the bass note. So that's the second string and the sixth string in a pinch. So you end up with this, and that's the end of that phrase. The next phrase, as she wheels her wheelbarrow through the streets broad and narrow, begins still holding down the G7 chord from the previous phrase, and now you play two G notes on the open third string with the first finger of the right hand, and then you move on to the C chord and you play the C note, the C melody note on the second string, and the bass C note on the fifth string. So you do a pinch, then you play your ornamentation notes on the third string, the open G, then you repeat that pinch and ornamentation note, pinch, ornamentation note, pinch, ornamentation note, and then you move on to playing the bass note C with the note E for the melody, and that's got by pinching the first string, the open first string, and the fifth string with the thumb. You then move to Through the Streets Broad and Narrow, and that basically is a through there is done by two pinches. The first pinch is on the second string, the C note, and the fifth string, C note, the bass note. And then just for variation, you could do that again, that same pinch again, but for variation I move the thumb down to the fourth string, and that's the note E, and again the melody note C with the second finger. You then change again onto the G7 chord from the C chord, and you place your fourth finger of your left hand on the second string, third fret, to give you the note D, and you play your bass note on the sixth string because you're on the G chord. You do a pinch, and then you do your ornamentation notes again, plucking the fourth string, open string, which gives you the note D with the thumb, and then plucking the third string, the open G, with the first finger of the right hand, and then you do that pinch and ornamentation notes again, and again, and again, and then to finish the phrase you form the note G, or sorry, the note F on the first string by plucking with your third finger of the right hand, and again pinching the sixth string to give you the note G. So putting that together, the next phrase, crying cockles and mussels, will sound like this. And that begins where the last phrase left off on the G7th chord, but you need the D melody note. So again you place the fourth finger of the left hand on the second string, third fret, and you pinch that with the G bass note. Then you do two ornamentation notes, and they're done quite quickly, and they're done by plucking the fourth string, which is open, with the thumb, so that's the D note. And then you pluck the third string, which again is open, with the first finger of the right hand, so that's the G note. And then you again pinch the melody D note with the bass G. You then move your hand onto the left hand to form the C chord in the standard position, and you now pinch between the E note on the first string, the open first string, with the bass note C on the fifth string, and you now do two ornamentation notes, and that's got by plucking the second string with the second finger of the right hand, and that would be the C note, and then plucking the G note, which is got by plucking the third string with the right hand first finger. And now you need the G melody note while on the C chord, so you place your fourth finger of the left hand on the first finger third fret, and you do a pinch. You now need the F note for your melody, so you lift your fourth finger off the first string and you place your first finger off the second string as it would normally be for the C chord, and place it down onto the first string on the first fret to get the F note. And you do a pinch with the bass, and then you do your ornamentation notes again. That's the second string and third string. And then you place your first finger of your left hand back into the normal C position, so that's on the second string, first fret. And you play the E note with the bass C, because the E note is the melody on the first string. And now you do your two ornamentation notes again on the second string and third string, and you end up by you need the ending up Mussels on the G note, which is the melody note, so you place your fourth finger back again on the first string, third fret, and you do a pinch between the bass and that G note. So putting that together, it'll sound like this. The next phrase, alive, alive-o, will sound like this. And that takes up on the C chord where the last phrase left off, but you need the melody to start, you need the melody note F, so you lift your first finger of your right hand off the second string and place it on the first string, first fret, and I do a pinch between that F on the first string. I also pinch the third string, which is the G note, and then the bass for the C chord, which is on the fifth string. So I do that pinch, and then you move on to the G7th chord, and you do a pinch, the same sort of pinch again, but at this time you will pinch when you do the F7 chord, you don't place your first finger on the first string, first fret. You lift it off, so you have the open first string giving you the melody E note, and again you pinch the first string, the third string, and in this case it's the sixth string because you're on a G chord, so you need the bass G. So that's that pinch. And now you walk up and resolve on the C. So what I do is, you're still on the G chord, G7 chord, you place your first finger, you need the melody note C, so you place your first finger on the second string first fret, and I normally just play two notes at the same time, and I play the C note with the G note on the third string, and then I walk up to the D note by placing your fourth finger on the second string third fret, and again you do the pluck with the first and second finger of the right hand on the second and third string, and then you resolve on C. So you now change onto the C chord and you pluck the C note on the second string with the bass C on the fifth string, so you do that by a pinch, and then there's a few filler notes just to fill out that bar, so as there's no silence, because the alive O, the O is actually held for a full bar. So what I do is I pluck the fourth string with the thumb, and that will be the E note because you're on the chord C, and then I pluck with the first string the third note, which would be the G note, and then you complete by doing a pinch between the C melody note on the the second string and the bass C. So putting that together, you have the next phrase, alive, alive, O, alive, alive, O, will sound like this. To play that, you start off on the chord C, and the first thing is the melody note G, and that's got by plucking the third open string with the first finger of the right hand. You then need the melody note C, which is got on the second string, and you pinch that with the bass note C, like so. You then pluck the third string, the open third string, to give you the note G, and again you do a pinch between the melody note C and the bass note C. So that's the second string and the fifth string, and then an ornamentation note G on the third string. Again the melody note C with the bass note C in a pinch, and then the ornamentation note G on the third string. Again the melody note C with the bass note C, and then the ornamentation note G, and then finally you move on to the first string to get the note E in the melody, and again you pinch that with the bass note C on the fifth string. You then move back to plucking the fifth string with the first string because you want the melody note C and the bass note C. You then move on to the G7 chord, and now you want the melody note D, so you achieve that by putting your fourth finger of the left hand down on the second string third fret to get the melody note D, and you pinch that with the bass note, which is on the sixth string, so that's the bass note G. You then have two quick ornamentation notes which are got by plucking with the thumb the fourth string, the open fourth string, the note D, and then the note G by plucking the third string with the first finger of the right hand, and again the melody note with the bass note, the melody note D with the bass note G, again your ornamentation note, the D and the G, and then the melody note D with the bass G in a pinch, and again the ornamentation note D with the ornamentation note G, and again the melody note G with the bass G, and then finally you need to finish off on an F melody note with the bass note G. So you do a pinch between the first string with the first finger of the left hand on the first string first fret, that's the note F, which would be the normal G7th position, and the bass G in a pinch. And that's the end of that phrase. So putting that together, you have the final phrases, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, is played exactly as it was the first time when we covered how to play along with those lyrics. So if you go back to the bars where I've covered that, you just repeat it, and in order to highlight that section on the tab and score, I placed the lyrics in red.